welcome. I am Jess Campmans with Guided by Equus and bringing you your Horse Wisdom energy forecast for the week of May 11th. This week, again, I wasn't able to bring this video through until later or midweek, but the idea that I got tuning into the video in the previous days and now actually finding the space to bring it through is that this week it's almost like we're taking a step backwards out of a space that we've been in that maybe we weren't able to find our way forward out of, and this step backwards. And it's funny because the weather was reflecting that here in southern Alberta this week. It's like we would get some spring and then all of a sudden backwards to winter, and we would all kind of have to go back into our warmer clothes and dealing with the wind and the temperatures and bedding animals and all of the things that kind of brought us back into the space of. And yet here I am this afternoon in what really feels like spring kind of weather. And these guys behind me are all just kind of sharing space in a way that they actually haven't normally been doing lately because of the herd dynamics. But they all have gathered here, and it appears that they're eating, but actually it's that nourishing piece. So actually this step backwards this week is calling us to nourish and nurture something that we might have kind of forgot about or forgot to bring along with us as we were trying to move forward in the world. And it's interesting that there's a bunch of restrictions this week that are being lifted, and it feels like there's a lot of our own individual identity, I want to say, is kind of wrapped up in what does this mean for us? Some of us are ready to get out of this way of living that we've kind of been forced into, and some of us have found a different way to be able to be in the world. And these lifting of the restrictions is like, how am I going to come back into real life, into normal life, into how I was living before? And so if either one of these is you, and there's probably a whole kaleidoscope of everything in between, then just this week, take a step back to kind of reflect on the entire space you've been in up until now, and what maybe you need to just settle into for a moment, not only within yourself, but in this space that you've kind of created, or this world, or this way of living that you've created, to really recognize those pieces that you want to bring forward as things begin to release and allow us to be released back out into the world as things start to open up. And what I'm feeling is that as things open up, there'll actually be new stipulations in place, which makes sense as far as how everything's going to have to open up, so that we bump up against ways that we might want to move forward, and actually that won't be possible. So we are kind of being, we're bumping along these sidewalls is kind of what it feels like, so we can still remain true to that thing that we've found over the last couple months. And in this sense of building a strength within us, that as we bump up, we realize that we find it more easier to go with the flow of things, because we begin to recognize, well, that's not for me and that's not for me, but all of these pieces that I've gathered, and I really enjoy living this way, or it's this thing that's calling me forward into it, that's where I want to be part of in the future. So just kind of take a deep breath on that and let yourself, almost I want to say, surrender to this space this week to be able to find this piece of information that exists somewhere in your world for you, that is igniting this light or this spark of recognition in many other areas of your life this week. So much love from myself and all of the horses here, and looking forward to sharing with you next week. And just kind of take a deep breath and let that all go. Because there'll be distractions that come along, and these distractions are kind of like just being able to create a little bit more space for ourselves to recognize if where we're at or what we're doing is really and truly important to us. And so it's like me being able to find the words to just directly say to you guys, look for this. So look for this as connected to your heart this week, and connected to a part of your mind that thought was important, but there's kind of a new, more intuitive part opening up, or a deepening of that intuitive piece that's opening up for you, and kind of surrender to it in a space that feels good and sunny.